Let's take a look at some of the stories making headline at this hour.
Kenyan Court of Appeal to start hearing case on teachers' pay row. At least 7 killed in Somalia blast. And coup leaders in Burkina Faso agree to hand over power.
And we begin here in Kenya, where the Court of Appeal is today expected to start hearing the case filed by Teachers Service Commission challenging the 50 to 60 pay rise awarded to the teachers by the Labour Relations Court. The Court of Appeal had ordered the teachers' employer to implement the ruling pending the hearing of the case. The TSC went to the Supreme Court, which declined to issue a ruling, saying it has no jurisdiction over the matter as it is pending at the Appeals Court. The Commission had moved to the Supreme Court seeking a review of the ruling that blocked it from getting temporary orders barring the payment increment. And want to cross over to our city center, where our reporter Michelle Ngele is on standby. Michelle has been covering this particular story. And Michelle, if you could just bring us up to speed. We've seen the unions and the Teacher Service Commission going to court on a number of times. Just kindly bring us up to speed until today.
Good morning, Ian. Now, this pay dispute between teachers and the government has seen the judiciary play quite a big role. Now, let me just take you back to where it all started. The Supreme Court ordered that the Teacher Service Commission give teachers a 50 to 60% salary increment. Now, the Teacher Service Commission began by moving to the Court of Appeal to appeal this particular order, but the Court of Appeal instructed the Teacher Service Commission to pay teachers even as the case continued. So the Teacher Service Commission again moved to the Supreme Court to ask for a dismissal of this 50 to 60% pay increase. But the Supreme Court said that it had no jurisdiction to do so because the case was still being heard before the Court of Appeal. Now, since the Teacher Service Commission said that there was no money to pay teachers, the teachers embarked on a nationwide strike. And we saw the Kenya National Union of Teachers move to the court, to the Labour Relations Court, accusing the Teacher Service Commission of being in contempt of court. Now, this was just when the strike was beginning 4 weeks ago. Now, soon after that, we saw the Teacher Service Commission again move before the Labour Relations and Employment Court, accusing the Kenya National Union of Teachers and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers of engaging in an illegal strike. Now, these two cases have been going on before the Labour Relations Court. Now, what we're expecting today, Ian, is a hearing before the Supreme Court in which the Teacher Service Commission wanted a dismissal of this order to give a 50 to 60% salary increase to the teachers. But there has been quite a twist to this, because we had the Attorney General and the Teachers Service Commission object to the dismissal of this particular order, because what happened is that the teachers' unions wanted the case both before the Labour Relations Court and the Supreme Court dismissed, because the Teacher Service Commission is in contempt of court, and say that by that virtue, then the Teacher Service Commission should have no audience before a court of law in this country. And so the Teacher Service Commission filed for a dismissal of both cases in the Supreme Court and the Labour Relations Court. Now, the Attorney General and the Teacher Service Commission filed an objection to the dismissal of these cases. So today was expected to be a hearing where we'll find out whether the 50 to 60% salary increment directive will be dismissed or will continue. But then again, there will be a hearing of that objection, because when someone files an objection, then the objection has to be heard first before the hearing continues, Ian.
Well, and Michelle, we are seeing a back and forth between the unions and the Teacher Service Commissions, but those caught in between are the students. And yesterday, I believe that you had a chance to go around schools and covering whether the directive by the government to have all schools closed was effected. How was that like?
Well, yes, the government had announced that school term dates have been revised for both public and private schools, and so it directed the indefinite closure of all public and private schools in the country as of Monday yesterday. Now, I did go to several public schools, and true to the government directive, most of the schools are closed. Actually, all the public schools are closed. They do have a few candidates who were exempted. They are staying in school preparing for their final examinations, because the government insists that national examinations will go on as usual. official. But even these candidates in public schools are going there in their home clothing, a sign that the school is not in session. But when it comes to private schools, Ian, they have defied the directive by the government to close down schools, and they actually want to sue the government for not consulting them before giving this particular directive.